Would you watch a show where a billionaire CEO has to go an entire month on their lowest paid employee's salary, without access to any other resources than that of the employee? What do you think would happen? They'd be fine. The problem with poverty is not usually day-to-day costs. People can adjust to that. It's unexpected expenses that are crippling at it. Why are people still responding 2 weeks later? Nobody is reading this thread anymore. At least not the responses at the bottom. Edit 2. Rant was too winny. If you have something to say, who am I to say otherwise? It would be better if they had to live with their lowest salaried employee for a month or two. IMO. In their house. Dinner with the family. Travel to and from work together. Same lunch. Kids with homework. The works. Building that relation would do much more for this problem than just experiencing below your normal standard of living before returning to it. You're more likely to feel empathy for a family you know, and much less likely to forget them. Anything else would just be another show about wealthy people having a fun adventure to talk about at cocktail parties. I doubt a month is enough to really feel the effect. It would be incredibly self-serving and boring. They would never truly experience what it is like to be in the precarious position of minimum wage employee living hand to mouth, and the novelty is just salt in the wound. It would be more interesting to see the reverse. There was this similar themed show in Hong Kong and mainland China years ago. They swapped billionaire with bottom feeders, let the rich do the basic job, on the lowest salary, to see how far the rich could go by purely their own effort. Nearly all of the billionaire admitted that they could not make anywhere, regardless of how hard they worked. Even working without sleeping and resting could not give you any accumulation to help climb up to the high level of the society. There was only despair, and admission that the divide between the poor and the rich is already a deep valley, and mere personal effort makes little sense. It stirred big debate among the society back then, and I think that was part of the reasons the show got cancelled. There was also another show in China, swapping senior political figures with community level council workers, to see how good they could do in each other's posts. The mayors were flooded by the angry mobs who kept asking for more and more benefits that were impossible to 3 months minimum, and I'd watch it. Thanks for the gold. I love reality shows, so I'd watch it depending on who produces it. If it's too fake, with too many emotional moments, advertising and people shouting, I'm out. It's more than just the money. It's the lack of security these people endure. Not knowing if you'll lose your job tomorrow and having no savings. Being kicked out of your home. An unexpected bill you can't afford, which may lead to increasing debt. Putting these rich people in a poor lifestyle for a month isn't enough. Even if they lost their money and homes, they'll have such a huge network that they'll be back on their feet in the time it takes for us punes to earn enough to eat for a week. They can never truly understand what it's like to be poor or ever face that reality again. So what would happen? It'd be a completely self-serving advert about how now I realize that we need to do more for our employees. The workers get a small vanity bonus, probably give an immigrant worker with limited English a car, pat themselves on the back. Then 2 weeks later, we've all forgotten about the show and they'll go back to their old ways. Isn't this almost the same as Secret Millionaire? Do you guys have that in the US? Lots of rich people voluntarily go on vacation to third world countries. The catch is, they know they have a way out and an end date. I'd be interested to watch a show where the CEO had to personally be financially responsible for the welfare of 50% of their lowest paid employees for 10 years, and their net growth percentage equaled their bonus every year, with a big bonus if both the company and the employees were profitable at the end. I'd do more than a month and without any contact to rich budders either. If it's a month, I think a lot would just buy rice and beans every day and go see. It's super easy to be poor. You just need to make economical choices. I've proven myself right longer than that, and they'll really have to get used to how their lowest paid employees live. Would they learn a lesson? Maybe. Likely not. They still have a mansion to come back home to. They'll give their lowest paid people a one-time bonus, or maybe they'll drag one out in front of a camera to give them a fancy car so their own reputation gets better. And then they won't change anything else. 1 month isn't long enough because no rent is due, etc. They wouldn't have any trouble. Most of them are self-made and most have a large number of financial skills that 99% of people don't. They'd macro their finances and come out better off than most people. You think someone like Jeff Bezos, or Bill Gates, or Elon Musk couldn't handle it? Or what about Warren Buffett? The dude is already living a modest life. A lot of dumbasses in the comments seem to fail to realize that a lot of these billionaires were already in a super shitty position before, and pulled themselves out of it. These people run massive corporations and charities, and you dumbasses seriously think that living your life for a few months would be a challenge? That's some cringe. You should watch Undercover Billionaire on Discovery, not to be confused with Undercover Boss. Billionaire Glenn Stearns moves to clear EPA with just $100, a truck and no contacts, and has to make a company valued at $1 million in 90 days. He also can't mention who he is to anyone. It's pretty much exactly like you are describing and insanely entertaining. There was an episode of American Dad where they tried to live on minimum wage for a month. It was fantastic. No, slumming is not living your entire life in a slum. Here is what will happen. Fake billionaires like Trump will come to this show. Real billionaires will probably not. Those who appear on this show will brag about how they are self-made and their employees could make do with even less. We will find out, like Naked and Afraid, that outside of cameras these billionaires were living in their luxury RVs, sipping martinis and having affairs. They would just treat it as a novelty since they know they will be getting their billions back at the end of the month. They wouldn't have to truly live like a person does who lives hand to mouth every day of their lives. They wouldn't really learn anything from it. In fact, they would probably look back on it and laugh. Oh, remember when we had to eat that can of ravioli, hahaha. They would have to swap everything down to the last detail. Apartment, car, if they even have one, wardrobe, food, hobbies, etc. And it would have to be ongoing, not just a couple months. The real question is, how to get a CEO to agree to this. Only if they also put a low-level employee in the CEO's position to highlight that it's not all golf games and getting other people to do your work. Depends if he is self-made or not. Self-made rich people often know very well what it means to be poor, and that's why they worked so hard to not be. No, I hate all reality TV that doesn't feature Gordon Ramsay. It is a mix. Day to day you can realistically only spend 5-10 out of pocket that even a minimum wage worker can deal with. But prorate in the monthly costs, and it gets crazy. In my area, a 1-bedroom in a bad area is still $1,200 per month, or about $40 a day. Transit for most people will be at least $5, and that is cost of mass transit to and from work, more if you drive, car, insurance, upkeep, gas. Not having a car is not always an option. On 40 hours at $10 an hour, you are bringing in about $1,200 a month. You lose some of that to taxes, but let's be nice and say you get it all. You already cannot afford a studio apartment, so you need a roommate. So you have to hopefully find someone sane, but that is not a given. So basically, on your own, on a full-time minimum wage job, you basically are eating garbage to just not be hungry, living with 2-3 roommates with the same problems you have, and will have no ability to save enough to ever make a difference. $500 is huge savings over a whole year for you. I recently found out the hard way that an ambulance ride is $2,500. Yup, it'd basically be like a camping trip. Rough it for a month, then back to normal. Rich people do this for fun. It's called the Pacific Crest Trail. That's how they could make the show more fun. Set the person up in an apartment with a crappy car that would be roughly equivalent to what someone making minimum wage be able to afford. Then, like a week in, add a challenge. A flat tire or expensive car repair. A break-in. An overdue bill that comes out of nowhere, resulting in the electricity being turned off. Maybe the heat goes off and they can't get the landlord to respond. Throw in an unexpected medical expense. I would totally watch the show. For real. I remember times when I would have to choose between going to a dentist with tooth pain and buying new tires for my own safety. Tough choice. But I can see how it would be even harder for someone to choose, say, between eating that day and paying for their kids' school supplies. This would be a good show. I'd watch this. Best idea so far. And a camera team changes everything. I won't trust doing business with a random nobody, but a guy in suit with a whole production team following him? That's a different story. That's why reality shows are intrinsically just shows. But it is just enough time to go. This is stressful. I'm gonna plan a trip to Bali in 26 days from now. I think they'd have to inject some kind of emergency expense to feel it in such a short time. Like the oven broke or surprise medical bill to show how a small thing can wipe your entire paycheck. Then force them to miss a day of work for said emergency. Almost like in Monopoly, you pull a card and bam, paycheck is gone. It might add appeal to for watchers since it introduces drama. This is also under the assumption that a company can operate without a CEO for a month. Depending on the company, that could sink the entire ship and X200B. People want to paint these wealthy people as villains when in reality a lot of the time they're operating within the fucked up bounds and laws we designed. It's a lot easier to say hang the rich than comprehensive tax reform, universal healthcare, take money out of politics, and no double standard for white collar financial crimes and X200B. The show would be stupid and shallow. Watching an individual suffer to make ourselves feel better while simultaneously affecting zero practical change. Why not both? Or trading places, as we called it back in the 80s. The reverse is called the lottery, and we know how it usually plays out. What's the show? And are there ways to find it online? He's the head of Amazon. Hi, I'm Jeff Bezos. She's a low-level greeter at Walmart. Have a great day. Put them together in the same apartment. Jeff, we're out of toilet paper. Go to Dollar General and grab some. How much can that cost? Like $10,000 a roll. Coming this season to ABC. Perfectly Unbalanced, starring Elon Musk as the next door neighbor Ellen. Jeff, have you ever wanted to go to space? Jeff, if I did, the ship would look like my dick. And laughter. I wish they had done these shows in the US, say, 10-15 years ago. Entertainment media can get away with a little more here, and Undercover Boss was popular enough. I think the audience would be satisfactory to whichever network it landed on. It might have pushed things forward a little bit more. Or not, maybe. I think I know what show you're talking about. My aunt and youngest cousin from Hong Kong were on it, or at least a very similar reality show. They aren't billionaires, but they are very wealthy. They lived with a poor mother and daughter. My cousin is now interested in filmmaking, and I wonder if it's partly due to this show. One thing that stayed with me from the show was that they tried to play up their wealth by saying my cousin had an American tutor. But it was actually my mom helping my cousin over Skype figure out classes for when she'd apply for American high school. Germany had a small experiment, maybe 45 minutes film, doing something like that over 3 days, making it from a homeless person's resources. 2 suffered. The third, though, doesn't hesitate a second, immediately grabs the closest charity poster he can find, begs for €5, goes to a copy shop and copies the damn thing in various sizes, goes to the closest cafe and asks if he can use one of their tables to promote the charity and collect some donations. Then goes on to collect a few €100 and goes, man, I don't see the problem. With problem scenarios thrown in, broken down car tube strike, dodgy boiler, sick child, the wheels would come off pretty quickly. And they can't choose February as one of their months. Although I'd like to see them have to have December so they have to deal with Christmas. Sure, I had to resort to being a homeless cannibal for 10 weeks, but it really wasn't that bad. Still too short a time to make these multi-millionaires realize the reality of living on minimum wage. 1 year might do it, though. And they have to do the same job as the employee. X Factor singer, I can't sing but my granny died an hour ago and told me to follow my dream. Hosts, you son of a bitch, I'm in. I fucking hate that emotional moment bullshit. Kitchen Nightmares and Bar SQ used to be great, now I can't even watch them. Same with Undercover Boss.